Hi, everybody. Hello, hello, and welcome to our class today. Super excited to have you here. I have Joy and Lindsay on the back end helping answer your questions. So as we go along, if you have a question directly for them or for me, please put it in the Q&A and we will either answer it on the back end or they'll shoot it over to me and I can answer it live for everybody. So the format of the class, we're going to start off with a slideshow presentation, which allows me to go a little bit slower and give you a broader overview of design space. This is actions in design space. So we will be taking a deeper dive into how to work with design space to create designs, add texture images. If you haven't had a chance to take our 101 class, please do so. That gives you a little bit more of a ground level knowledge about design space. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and go right into the slides. And let me get it up here. Always takes me a minute to get it going. All right. So actions in design space. So as you all know, design space works with any Cricut machine you have, whether it's the Cricut Joy, the Cricut Maker, or the Explore Air. Okay. And if you're working, I am doing my presentation today using a desktop. And when we go live into design space, I'll be using a desktop. If you are on a tablet, when we talk about the design panel, it's on the bottom of your screen, and we talk about actions and layers and editing. That is also on the bottom of your screen. So I'll try and remind you where things are located. If you're on a desktop or laptop, you can follow right along with me. And if you're on a tablet or a phone device, I will try and remind you to peek down below to find all those little action items. All right, so today we're going to talk a little bit more, do a deeper dive into the layers panel. The layers panel is the panel on the right side of your desktop, or it's on the bottom of your tablet device in the icon that says layers. What the layers panel is it's where all the layers of images or text or shapes that you add to your canvas, they stack up in the layers panel, with the newest layer being at the top of your panel. So as you bring in an image or a shape or text, you'll start to see them show up in your layers panel here on the right. So in this instance, we added a square to the panel and square to our canvas. And then you can see now that is showing up in the layers panel. And as you add more and more shapes, they show up in the layers panel. Now at the top of your layers panel, you'll see a couple of things. One is when you only have one image on your canvas or one image selected, the duplicate icon will be active and the delete icon will be active. And that's where you can duplicate a layer, so kind of make a copy of that layer, or you can delete the layer. The group and the ungroup are ghosted. And until you add more layers and select multiple layers, they stay ghosted. Well, now, as you add more layers, see, so I've added a circle and I've added a triangle, and now my group is alive. So if I wanted to group these images together so I could move them around the canvas together or resize them together, then that icon would be active to group them together. Now, as you're looking at layers that you add onto your canvas, you'll notice in the layers panel, each layer indicates what type of operation you're going to ask the machine to do. Are you going to ask it, for example, here the triangle is a cut shape, where the circle will be a draw shape. So you can see there that indicates what will happen with those shapes. And then you also can see that you can hide a shape on your canvas by clicking the eyeball on the panel. So when you hide an image on your canvas, that image just is still there. You can bring it back and see it whenever you're ready, but it sort of is hidden off your canvas. So it keeps your workspace a little bit cleaner, or if you're just not ready to work with that layer, you can hide it. So now you can see that the group is still available because I have both of these layers selected. At the bottom of the layers panel are your action items. Now, if you're on a tablet device, you want to look for the little word on the bottom that says actions. And the actions are slice and weld, attach, flatten, and contour. So let's do a little bit deeper dive into what those words mean. So what is slice? Slice is when you cut one shape from another shape or delete part of an image. It allows you to delete the part of the image. So I have on my canvas a yellow square and a green circle, and they're overlapping. So when you have two shapes that are overlapping, you can slice those shapes. Slice will not work if you have more than two shapes selected or just one shape. You have to have two shapes selected. So you can see here, when I have these two shapes selected, in the bottom panel of my layers panel, the slice action icon is open. So it's available. It's not the shadow color. So when I click on that, what that does is it separates or slices in from one image into another image. So the green circle was on top of the yellow square. And when I clicked slice, it takes that circle overlapping piece, that portion of the circle that was overlapping, and adds a cut line into the square shape. And also where it was underlapping, the square was underneath the circle, it cuts the square shape from the circle shape. It gives you the cut line here. And that's what separates the pieces from the square and the circle. So here in the left side here, I don't know if this is on the left or your right, but the pieces that are solid shapes, when I hit slice, slice puts a cut line on both shapes where they overlap. So on the yellow, you can see here, it put the cut line where the circle overlapped onto the yellow. And on the green, it put the cut line where the square overlapped onto the circle. So now I have, from two shapes, I now have four different shapes when you pull them apart. Slice can also work like a cookie cutter when you put a shape completely inside of another shape. So I think of it like I've rolled out my dough. The yellow square is your dough and you've rolled it out. And then the green star is your cookie cutter. And you come along and put that green star in the middle of your dough. And when you pull your cookie cutter out, you have a shape cut out of your dough. So when you completely overlap one image on top of another image, you can slice just like you would a cookie cutter. So slice works in two ways. You can either cut out portions of a shape when they're overlapping or cut out an entire shape. And the important thing to remember is slice only works with two shapes. Weld, however, will work with more than two shapes. And when you weld something together, it actually removes the cut lines of the overlapping shapes and turns them into one complete shape. So I'm going to go back 2 slides here. And where slice added a cut line here along this curve on both shapes, weld will remove this cut line. So where this shape is overlapping, it will actually remove that cut line and turn it into one whole shape. So when you select all 3 layers and use the weld icon, that takes all 3 layers and merges them into one, and you lose those cut lines. So does that make sense? Do you have any questions on slice or weld before I go on? It's like they're opposites of each other. One removes the cut lines and one adds the cut lines. So if are taking notes, if you just want to jot that down, that's a great way to remember it. One removes cut lines, which is weld, and one adds cut lines, which is slice. Okay, so now moving on to the next icon. And remember, if you're on a tablet, you want to go into the icon that says actions and click on that. And that's where you'll find the slice and the weld and the attach icons there. So when I mentioned earlier, up here in the top portion of your layers panel, when you group layers together, you can basically it holds them together in a folder. They're still their own layers, they're still their own colors, but it just holds them together so you can move them around on the canvas together. And that's all that group does. Attach does a little bit more. Attach holds those images onto the canvas in relation to each other where you have designed them. So when you use attach, it holds shapes together on a canvas. When they're attached, you can edit they still keep it in layers. So you can edit the layers together. So when items are attached, they all become the same color and they hold their position on the canvas. So that's important when you go to cut your images. So let's say for this one, I have these 3 different layers. One is the junkie, one is the pumpkin, and the other is the coffee cup. And when I go to my design, I want to put them, I'm going to cut them out of one shape of vinyl, one color of vinyl, let's say. And I want to position the pumpkin on top of the junkie. Now, if I just do this without attaching it and I send it to my cutter, this is how it shows up on my prep mat. Because the software, when it talks to the computer, when the software talks to your device, it says, let's maximize our positioning of the images onto the mat. So you get the most use out of your vinyl or paper, whatever your materials are. So it moves those images around for you to maximize your design. But now you've lost your position, how you wanted your design to go over to the machine. And then if you cut it this way, you'd have to reposition it manually. But when you use attach, so when you select those layers, first of all, it turns them all into the same color because it's saying I'm cutting these together. So when you attach them, it changes all the colors and it freezes, it clips those images together in one layer. Now with group and attach, you can always go back and detach or ungroup and change your image. Whereas if you welded this together, you wouldn't be able to change it down the line. So attach is when you want to hold pieces together temporarily and send them to the cutter so that they hold their position. It freezes their position on the canvas. So now when I've got all 3 layers attached and I send it to my cutter, my prep screen looks like this. So all the 3 layers now will cut out exactly in the placement that I want them to be. And I don't then have to manually go back and try and line up the pumpkin and the junkie with each other into the coffee cup. So it puts it all together as one. So attach tool keeps your shapes in the same position and the same arrangement in relation to each other as you place them on the mat. The shapes are still separate, so you can go back and change them and modify them. It just freezes it in place. Weld tools completely unites 2 or more layers together and converts them from multiple layers into a single layer. And there's only so many times you can go back and change it. Like if you weld something together and you say, no, that's not what I wanted, you could undo that weld. But there is a point where you go too many steps forward, you can't go back and reverse your weld. Okay, the second to last icon in your layers panel and under the action items is contour. And contour is a great tool to have. It's sort of like your eraser. When you think about how your shapes are made, your designs are made, every cut line creates a shape. So for example, in this cactus, each of these white spaces in between are actually cut lines. So the software recognizes the shape that these cut lines will make as a contour. And if you wanted to hide some lines, you need to use the contour tool. So it hides those lines, and it does it by individual lines and shapes, because every cut line creates a shape. So for example, on my cactus here, if I wanted to turn the base of my cactus into a solid color, and I didn't want to have these cut shapes, the rainbowish type cut shapes here cut out of the base of my cactus, I would want to contour those shapes out. So in your design panel, in your layers panel, under the actions, you would select contour, and it pulls up a window like this. So every shape that your software intends to cut is over on the right side here, one on top of the other. And what you do is you just either click on the shape inside this window here, or you click on the shapes over here to hide those cut lines. They're still there, and you can go back and add them, but you can hide those cut lines and by removing the shapes that the software will cut, you now have a solid shape. So that is the contour line. And it's really something that the more you play with it and the more you use it, the easier it gets to understand. It took me, when I first started using Design Space, it did take me a while to really get the power and the benefit of using the contour lines. And now I use it, all the time. But until you start using it, it is a little bit, it just takes practice. That's what I think about Design Space. It just takes practice, and you're never going to ruin anything. Now this one here, this image, this darling, you're beautiful. I wanted to show you another way to use the contour lines. So the word darling might be a word I wanted to use on a project, but I didn't need the you're beautiful. So this is an image that's available in Cricut Access. And it doesn't come onto my canvas as 2 layers. It comes onto my canvas as a single layer. So I can use contour and remove the you're beautiful. So when I select contour, the second window pops up, and I need to click on all the letters that I don't want to keep and their inside pieces. And then after you've done that, then your image is just the word darling. So this is a great way if you're using a Cricut Access image that you want to modify or change a little bit. This is a great way to use the contour tool to achieve a different look. And I do that a lot. All right. So our last icon in the design in the layers panel under the action items is flatten. So flatten works to combine many layers into a single layer that is then intended to be printed on a printer and brought back to your machine to be cut. So you can see in this image here, this image that's selected that says Body Positive Babe. If you look in my layers panel, it's actually a cut file, and it has 5 different colors. And if I were to send it to my cutter right now, each layer would need to be an individual cut. But let's say you want to make this into a magnet or a sticker or something like that. You'd want to first print the image and then come back and cut around the image. So to do that, you select the image and you use the flatten icon over here. And when you do that, it flattens the image here into a print then cut image. So then I would print that image and send it to my printer, print it, and bring it back to cut it. And just when you're doing print then cut, you will notice that when you go to your prepare screen, it's added a black box around the images that you're printing. And these are the registration marks that the Cricut machines use to identify where to cut around the images that you have flattened, because now your software only recognizes the shape around a flattened print then cut image. So Cricut cut and draw lines. Now this is also, oops, oh no, hold on one second. Let me pop those back in. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen, Joy. If you have a question we can answer while I fix this, that'd be great.
Sure. Actually, we have gotten through a lot of the questions. So if somebody has something that they're dying to know about that we haven't, that Kesley hasn't touched on yet, please feel free to type it into the Q&A section.
Awesome.
Looks like CJ asked, will you be showing the cut results on any of the examples? And yes, Kesley is going to be making a project with us. So you will see her send a project right through to the printer. We have a couple questions about the contour tool.
Okay.
Somebody, Kim Fresner said that sometimes when I go to flatten the image, it removes the words. Why would that happen?
When she goes to flatten the image, it removes the words.
Yes, and I'm wondering if that's because somehow you missed the words when you were grouping, getting all of the pieces that go into the image. You might have missed the words. So just go back and make sure you have all the pieces when you go to flatten.
Yes, or another possibility is that the words are below the biggest shape. So they're hidden behind a layer. So when you think about stacking up those layers, like squishing them flat, what your words may be underneath a bigger shape. And so when it's flattened, if those words are underneath, this bigger shape will hide your smaller shape. So the positioning of your layers might be causing that. And you can drag your layers either with your finger if you're on a tablet or your mouse.
Excellent.
Good questions. I love it. Keep it coming. That's what makes, I think that like those live questions is kind of what makes these classes so fun and challenging for us. But it's fun because, we don't know what you don't know. All right. Let me share my screen again then, and we will keep going through here. I may have to go back. Let's see. I think I can do it from right here, right? No, why did it do that? All right, you guys, you're gonna see my secret sauce here. We're gonna unhide these slides. Sorry about that. Oh no, I did it right. Sorry, I don't know. Okay, here we go. There we go. Okay, so cut and draw lines. So in your, as you're learning Design Space and working your way around it and getting comfortable with it, up in your edit bar, across the top here is this operation. And it's funny to hear the conversations that go on about operation because we all think about that game when we were kids. But operation is really what your software is what you're asking your Design Space software to tell the machine to do. So you have options in the operation panel here, and your options are based on the machine that you're using. So if you're using, say, an Explore, your options are to cut lines, to draw lines, or to print then cut lines. So when you're saying to cut lines, it's just the basic, your fine point tool to cut those lines. And then when you're doing draw lines, you're going to tell it to use a pen or the foil tool or your scoring tool. And then but past that is another drop-down menu that will ask, well, what color pen or what size foil tool? So you drill down a little bit more in your cut lines there. Now, if you're using, say, a maker, you have more options under your cut line. So not only might you be using a fine point cutting tool, but you may be using a wavy or a perforation. And then your draw tools, you may be using the deboss tool or an engraving tool. So all of those pens and tool operations happen right over here in your edit bar. And then remember that ties back to your layers panel, because when you change the operation, you'll see the change in your operations panel. And you also can change your color in that little section of your edit bar. You can change the color of your words and things like that right there. Now, as you add text to your canvas, so if you took our 101 class, we talked a little bit about text, and over here in your design panel is where you would add text. And if you're on a tablet, don't forget your design panel icons are in the bottom left corner. So all these these icons here will be down here on your tablet device. So when you add text onto your canvas, you're inserting text onto your canvas, a new edit bar pops up. And on the new edit bar is where you can change your font and really adjust and play around with your fonts a little bit. And where this ties back into our layers panel here is when you add text, it comes in as a single layer. So as you're adding the text, all the letters come in on one layer. And then you can modify that layer either by changing your font or changing the style of your text. You can change the size, the letter spacing, your line spacing, and your alignment. And then this is where you would curve text or do advanced. And the advanced icon really just separates your word into layers, or if you've typed up multiple lines, it'll separate it into lines. And if anybody's curious about that, we can go over that a little bit more when we go live. Now, in your text, though, you do have different ways of using text. So they're called styles. And every text has at least one style, if not more. So this 3 Birds Life's a Party font, it has every style possible. So if you want to kind of play around a little bit, you might just take a note, 3 Birds Life's a Party, and come back on your, when you have a chance, and sort of play with it, because each style does something different. So you have the regular style for 3 Birds Life's a Party, which is 2 layers. It gives you the regular layer and then an outline layer. It also comes in a bold style, an italic bold, and the writing style, which is draw. This writing one, see in my layers panel over here at the top text here where it says draw, that is the writing style, and you would use a pen to draw that out. So that's a great fun way to sort of get different effects with your fonts, and then also selecting different fonts. So on a desktop, Cricut introduced kerned fonts this summer, and kerning is the spacing between letters to create an overlap. And it's really more specific to script fonts, so that as you're writing something out in a script font, those letters overlap, and then you can convert them into a single word. So when you search for kerned fonts, they come in as individual letters still. And keep in mind, the kerning fonts is only available on a desktop. So you still manually have to wiggle your letters around in tablets. But as you bring in your word, you see these little circles here indicate where cut lines are. So this is where that weld tool comes really in handy. If you want to make this into a single word with no cut lines in between the letters, you would highlight the letter and weld it, and that removes those cut lines in between your letters. So that's where weld comes in. So here's our project today, where we're going to take all those different action items, the weld, the slice, the attach, and I don't know if we use contour or not in this, but if you want, we can go over that a little bit live. And we're going to make this design here, which can be applied to a cup, a journal, whatever you might have on hand. Okay. So there we go. That is the overview. Now, as we go into the actual, my design space, as we go into building it, here's what I'm going to do. First, I'm going to show you what I'm going to do and talk about it a little bit. And then we're going to do it together if you want to work in design space with me. So if you want to work with me, go ahead and open up your design space. Now, I did get an update to my software last night, so it might take you an extra minute or two to get design space open. But go ahead and open it, let it percolate and open and get started, and then we can create together. So I'm going to share my screen again, and this time I will go into design space so we can go live into design space. Let's go there. Okay, so I'm going to just go to the home screen here. I go up to my profile and I go into the home screen. I always kind of like to start off in the home screen to see, what's going on, what kind of projects are fun, if there's any new fun videos out, or what other people are making, because I always find inspiration here on things that are coming. And we did a class 2 weeks ago, or maybe it was even last week, where we made the school stuff, and that was really fun. So if you've got your design space open and you're ready to go, we're going to go ahead and make sure the machine you're using is selected in the header bar here. So I'll be using an Explorer 3. And this is just a drop-down menu that lets you select which machine you're using. And it's important to do this at the onset so you don't, I have both machines, so I do have to make sure I have the right one selected, or I'll try and do something on my Explorer 3 that I can only do on my Maker. So let's go ahead and start a new project. And I'm going to start with a fresh canvas for us. Okay. And now here we are in our new canvas. So like I said, what I'd like to do is show you the step. So if you can just, you can just watch what I'm doing, and then I'll remove it from my canvas and I'll do the step again. So this time you can do it with me. Okay. So what we're going to do first is I'm going to make that medallion, Life is a Party. Let me see. I'm not sure. Give me just 1 second. I'm going to go into my projects. Okay. I do have it saved as a project. And here it is here. It's Life is a Party. Life is Better. Sorry, I didn't think of my font. Life is Better. And do you want me to share that in the chat? The project, would that be helpful? Okay, I'm just going to share the project in the chat. If you get lost at any point in time, you can grab that project and then you'll have a starting point from there. Okay, so I'm going to open this up and then I will keep this on my canvas so we can kind of reference back to it, the steps we need to take to get here. But we are going to make this from scratch. So the first thing we're going to do, I'm going to hide all my layers here. There we go. So the first thing we're going to do is find the image we want to work with onto our canvas. So in my design panel, we're adding something onto the canvas. So I'm going to go to the design panel, which is where you grab something to add to your canvas. And remember, if you're on a tablet, it's on your bottom left corner. So I'm going to select the images icon. And then I'm going to do a search in all images, or I'm going to search in free images. So if you want to work with me, this is a free image for everybody to use. And we're going to look for, let's say we want to look for something summer or something palm tree. We want to squeeze as much beautiful, warm summer weather we can out of the season. So here are a bunch of different designs come up, and you can choose whatever works for you. Like if you're not a palm tree fan and you want to do a search for a sunshine or something like that, you can absolutely feel free to do that. I'm going to grab this image here, and this is image number M9FE86AC. and I think we can drop that in the chat for you. It's just called palm trees, and it is a free image. So I'm going to select that image and insert that image onto my canvas. Okay, so hopefully you guys watched me do that, and I'm going to go back and now do it with me. So we're going to go to our design panel. We're going to click on images. And you'll probably come up to where it shows all the images or where you get like what's new this week. So we're going to go up to the left corner and we're going to click on all images. And we're going to do a search for, I'm going to do a search for palm tree. And I'm going to look in free this week for palm tree. Let's see if that works. Nope. Okay, I just have to type it in again. So type in palm tree. Okay, so this is where those images are, and you just can scroll down. It's on for me, it's on the third row to the right here. I'm going to click on the image, and when I click on that image, the green icon pops up, and that or the green bounding box around the image, that lets me know I've selected the image, and it's also in my queue down here. So I'm going to insert that image onto my canvas. And there it is, right there. So that was our step number 1, was to add that image onto our canvas. Step number 2 is to change the color. So I'm going to walk you through it and then you do it with me. I'm going up to the edit bar here to where operations, and I will select green as my color choice. Now that turns my palm tree green. Okay, so to do that, you want to click on the image. You want to go to the edit bar and click on the black square here, maybe gray, and a drop-down box will appear, and you select your color here. So I'll be cutting this out of green vinyl. All right, so step 2, woohoo, we're done. We have an image on our canvas. So you should have an image on your canvas now that is a green palm tree, or what if you got a pineapple, maybe you're going to do it yellow, whatever works for you. Now, the second step of our project is to create the outline of the circle. And there's 2 ways you can do this. If you're working on a desktop, you can use offset, or if you're working on a mobile device, you would just use slice. So the first way I'm going to show you how to create this outline of your circle is to use the slice feature. So what we're going to do is add, okay, now this is again, watch me do it, and then I'll go back and we'll do it together. So I'm going to add the circle shape onto my canvas. So I'm going to my design panel on the left side, and I'm going to insert 2 circles onto my canvas. And the way that I do that is I click the circle shape twice. So I just click it once and twice, and I'll get 2 circles, which is kind of a cool little thing. I didn't realize that if you clicked a shape more than once, it would put multiples onto your canvas. And I also think if you do a number, like if I do a number 5, a pentagon should show up on my canvas. Oh, a number 5 is a triangle or diamond, but that's kind of a cool little feature too. And I didn't mean to digress. I hope I didn't confuse anybody by doing that. But when you go to the shapes icon and you click a number is associated with each shape, and then that pops it onto your canvas. I don't know if that's, I've never seen that in a manual. I just stumbled on that by accident. So it's like my shapes Easter egg. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to create this outline circle using slice. So I've added the 2 shapes onto my canvas. My first shape is going to be my outline of my circle. So I will change my size to be 4.5. I'm going to take us all the way through making the circle, and then we're going to go back and do it together. So I'm changing my size to 4.5 on one circle, and the other circle I'm changing to 4.25. So it'll just be a little bit smaller. And then I want to place one circle inside of the other circle, which you can eyeball, or you can select both layers. So I left click outside onto the blank canvas and then drag across both circles to select both layers. Then I go to the align icon in my toolbar and I select center. And it centers the top circle onto the bottom circle. Really nice and easy. So now I know that they're aligned right in the center. And what I want to do is slice it together. And Stacy, I'm sorry, yours is still updating. Stay with us, keep watching, and you'll have the recording of this so you can go back and do it step by step, and you can pause me and start me again as you do each step. So keep that update going. Okay, so I've selected both of my circles and I'm going to slice them. Now, when you hit slice, if you notice in your layers panel, you have 3 different layers now in your layers panel associated with your circle. And as you move those pieces apart, you'll end up with 2 circles from the center and your outside ring. And we don't need the 2 circles in the center, so you can just go to your layers panel and delete those and keep your 1 circle there. Okay, so now I'm going to delete that and you're going to do it with me. So over in the layers panel, in the design panel, I'm going to click on the shapes icon. The circle shape shows up and I'm going to click on that 2 times, left click with my mouse, and that brings it onto my canvas. The first circle, I'm going to make that 4.5. And the second circle, I will make 4.25. Now, since it's a circle, you don't have to worry about different measurements for width and height because it's a circle. And that didn't look like it changed to 4.5. There we go, 4.5. Okay, now I'm going to change this color just so that you can see the difference in the circles. If I bring my smaller circle on top of my larger circle, I can do a good job getting it in the middle, but I want to make 100% sure I've gotten it in the middle. So I'm going to select both images using my mouse, and then I'm going to select align, and then I will center those circles like that. Once they're centered, I will go down to my layers panel and select slice. So let me slice that. And in your layers panel, you'll see 3 different circles now. So I have my original 4.25 circle. I have the inside of my 4.5 circle and the outside of my 4.5 circle. And the outside is really the piece we want to keep. So these 2 pieces I'm going to throw away. I don't need those. And that is one way to use slice. So that was more of like the cookie cutter of slice. Okay, now what we're going to do next, I did say that there was a second way to do this using the offset feature. And if you guys are okay with it, since everybody got a chance to do this way, I'm going to hold off and come back and show that at the end of class so we can keep moving along on our project. Okay, now, if you find that your circles are, Okay, so here we go. Now we have our circle and our palm trees, and you can adjust your circle. Sometimes I'll move my shapes around and make them really big on a canvas, and then I'll reduce it down when I kind of have it easier, because it's a little bit easier to see when it's bigger. Now my circle is my top layer and my palm tree is my bottom layer, but I'd like to bring my palm tree to the top so it's easier to move around. In my layers panel, I will left click on my palm tree and I'll drag it above my circle. So now my palm tree is on top of my circle. And I usually like to have the smaller image as the top image. So now I've put my palm trees on top of my circle. And I'm not 100% sure how big my palm tree will be. So I'm going to grab my palm tree and my circle together, and I'm going to group them. In your layers panel, select group. And this allows me to keep them as two separate layers. They're two colors, but I can now move them together on my canvas. I can resize them together or shrink them together. Okay, so that was step number 2. The next step is to add our text. So to add our text, we're going to start with the text icon in the design panel. And I'm going to do it first, and then I'll show you how to do it. Then we'll do it together. So the first thing I'm going to type in is "life is at the beach" because I'm using 2 different fonts. So I'll type in "life is return at the." And this now is one of my font layers. And I will go to the operations panel and change it to a blue color. And then since it's 2 separate lines, since it's 2 lines, but I need them to be separate, I'm going to the advanced edit bar. My edit bar, I'm going to the advanced icon and I'm ungroup to lines. So now "life is" one line and "at the" is another line. So let's do that together. So we're going to go to text, type in "life is," hit return, "at the." And I'm using the Cricut Sans regular font, and it's just a nice basic print font, kind of chunky, so I like that. And then we're going to go, okay, so once you have it, 2 lines, go to the edit bar on top, select advanced, ungroup to lines, because what we're going to want to do is we'll want to be separating these lines out, and then change your color to blue. Okay, so now we have our first 2, and you can bring that over here onto your circle. And don't worry if it's not exactly the right size. We'll tweak the sizing in a minute. Select all 4 layers now and group those together so that if you accidentally move it around, it keeps everything together. So then we're going to add the "better beach" text. So go to your design panel. I'm going to walk you through this, so watch, and then we'll do it together. Go to the design panel where it says text, insert text, and we'll type in "better," and we'll type in "beach." Better, return, and then beach. Now with this font, I want to use something that's a little cursive font, something that's a script font. So while it's selected, I'll go to my font icon here and I will select, I'll keep the only current font selected, and I'll type in, you can browse through and find a font you want. I know the Radiotopia is a great cursive font. Did I spell it wrong? I spelled it wrong. It's called Radiotopia. And that's a great cursive font that'll come in. And as you can see, I'm going to change my color on this so you guys can see the overlapping kerned letters. So see how between the E and the T here, you have these cut lines. So we want to eliminate those cut lines so they come in as one word. And since this is, there's still 2 layers. I mean, they're still all one shape, but you've got all these individual shapes in one line. I know this is a little bit confusing because I said you had to have two layers to weld, but these are, each letter is its own layer on one layer. If that makes sense. So with fonts, welding is a little bit different. So to eliminate these cut lines, we're going to go to the weld icon, select weld icon, and there we go. Now all those cut lines are gone. Okay, so if you want to do it with me, we're going to go to the design panel, insert text. We're going to type "better," return, and beach. And then we're going to go to the font selection on your edit bar and type in the word Radiotopia. Now, the current fonts they only on your desktop will come together. If you're on a laptop or a mobile device, why am I spun? If you're on a laptop or a mobile device, you just need to use your letter spacing and move those letters together so that they're touching and then weld from there. So Better at the Beach, we're going to change this to the same blue font we have over here. Let's go. Okay, so we're going to change that so it'll match our other fonts. And then since I have more than one layer selected, we will weld that together and you lose out on those cut lines. And then remember, we want, since those are separated, we want to go, oh, guess what? You can't separate, you can't do your advanced once you've welded it together.
Because you might be able to unweld at that stage.
You would think so, Joy, but you can't. I have welded myself tight like glue. So that's okay. We'll walk through it again. Good practice. Type in insert your text, say better, return, beach, and then we will come back and change our color to blue. Go see, now I have that advanced on my, because it's once you weld it together, it's no longer a font, it's a shape. And that's why the edit bar that relates to fonts is no longer there once you've welded it together. When you weld your letters together, you turn them from a font into a shape. I hope that makes sense. So I'm going to ungroup 2 lines. So better will be 1 line and beach will be a line. And then you can select better and weld that together and beach and weld. And now you have your letters your letters are now a word. And then the last step is, now you guys can do this part with me since we have all of our elements on your canvas. Want to grab this, everything we grouped together, and go ahead and ungroup it now, because now we sort of want to tweak things around a little bit. And maybe we start by getting our words in order. So go ahead and start separating those out and putting life is better at the beach and getting those lined up there. And if you want to, if it makes more sense to you, don't forget that you can move your layers around in your layers panel. So if you want your layers to match the order of your lines, then you would just take your word life is and bring it to the top of your layers panel, and then bring better underneath that, at the underneath that, and beach at the bottom. If that makes you feel more comfortable, a little bit more in control. So then I like to bring, like I said, I like to bring my design a little bit bigger. So I'll just enlarge that. And because I think I need to move my palm trees a little bit more over, I'm going to ungroup that group that we had grouped. And I'm going to move my palm trees over like this. Now you'll see that my palm tree is overlapping my circle. So I don't really want that to happen. Let me get these, let's get our letters in order here. And then we'll figure out if we like that or if we want to take that little bit of palm tree out. So I can you just kind of like eyeball it here so that everything sort of fits in. Like if you wanted to bring your beach in line with the bottom of your palm tree, you may bring that over there and then bring that in a little bit. So you start with your line here, and then you can sort of space everything out from that point. And if you want to, you can use the grid lines on the back grid to make sure you have an equal spacing between the two, and you may move your letters in a little bit smaller or bigger. Keep kind of nudging things around as you go. Like I might take this life is and bring it out a little bit bigger and bump this guy up. So kind of this is where like your creative license comes into play, and you get to say how you want things to look on your design. And this is the fun part. Everybody's will look a little bit different. All right. So if you have, I'll give everybody a minute. Is there any question I can answer, Joy, while I give everybody kind of a minute to play around with their spacing?
I think we're good on questions right now. Oh, wait, Pam just asked one.
Oh,
When I insert text, it shows the typing box, but it never shows on the canvas.
so Pam, I have noticed that happens to me sometimes. And I'm not exactly sure why it happens, but I find to fix that, I'll save my project and I'll go out and start a new, and clear my canvas and bring it back in. I think it's just a glitch in the order that I'm doing something. It's just, I don't know why it happens, but I have had that happen. And I find like, if I just kind of clear my canvas and I start again, it works. But definitely save your project. So if everybody wants to, at this point, you can go up to your header bar and click on the save icon, and you can save your project as Life is Better at the Beach. And then close out that canvas, start to bring in that project again, and then the text box should happen. And I've unfortunately had to do that like once or twice in the same project. So I don't know if it's I'm overworking my computer, asking it to do a lot, or if it's just a glitchy thing. But that's fixed it for me, and it's never taken more than that to get it to work again. Review the ordering again, Cheryl. The letter represents the entire word or phrase. Oh, good question. So once you weld your letters together, they become an image. So they're no longer a font. So like if I click on better, it's an image and it's no longer a font. So I can't use any of the font editing tools. So in my layers panel, it shows up as what the image would look like. Whereas the life is still a font. So I can go up to my edit bar here and still edit my letters if I wanted to. So you'll just see the first letter of that font line. So once you weld it, it becomes an image and you see the whole thing in your layers panel. But before that, you just see the line. Really good question. Okay.
Kesley,
yeah.
Do we have an hour, or are we an hour and a half class
today? I have this down as an hour and a half class. Am I wrong?
Okay. Nope, that's fine.
Okay.
But keep on going. Okay. Everybody's here we've got a lot of excited people.
Okay, awesome. And if you can't stay for the whole class, you can just grab the project link and work on the project on your own. And we do record this, so totally understand. Okay, so then our last step before we send it over to our cutter is you can do it just like this and send it over. But I do want to bring my palm tree. I would like to get rid of these little bits that are hanging outside of my circle. And I'm going to do that with slice. And then I'm going to take the palm tree and the circle and weld that together. So oops, there I go, moving things around. So I'm going to grab my circle and my palm tree, just those two layers. Now, if you're on a desktop, when you take a circle, you can hold the shift key and select the palm tree. So I'll take those two layers and I'm going to slice. So you remember with slice, you can only have two layers. So if your slice icon is not showing, it's not dark, it's because you have more than one layer selected or only one layer selected. So you have to have two layers selected to get that slice to show up, and you click slice. Now, what that's going to do is give you a lot of different layers. So let's look at those different layers. The first layer is my palm tree, and it has, it's sliced out where the circle cut through the palm tree. See that? So it's sliced out where the circle cut through the palm tree, which is okay. Let me undo that, get him back in line, because what I want to do is take that layer, take your palm tree layer with the layers cut out of it, and go to contour. Now we get to use our contour tool. And what we want to do is remove the little pieces that were outside the circle. So you hide those pieces and they're outside the circle. And then all you have to do is take those 3 layers that are left and weld those together to give yourself the outside circle with the palm tree on it. So I'm going to go back before I weld and show you that again. You take your outside circle, I hold the shift key and I select my palm tree. So now I have those 2 layers. I slice into those 2 layers, and then I can go in, take the palm tree layer. I go to contour. So you click on the palm tree layer, which for me is my top layer. I go down to the bottom on my layers panel. If you're on a tablet device, you want to go to your actions button in the middle and select contour. And then you select the pieces that are outside of your circle to hide those, and you close those off. So now I don't have those pieces, but I have all these other little pieces that are cut apart, and I'm going to select those 3 layers, 4 layers actually, all 4 of those top layers, and we're going to weld those together. So when I weld them together, they all become one piece. So now you see all that is one piece. And I'll change that to a fun green color here. And we have created, out of our own shapes, slicing, welding, and contour, a sticker that you can apply to a notebook, to I say sticker, it's a vinyl sticker that you can apply to a notebook, to a mug, to a laptop, anything like that. So I'm going to put this on a journal I have, and I'll change the size to be 4 inches by 4 inches and cut it out that way. Now I'm going to hide all of this group here because this was the original one I brought in to show you guys how I did this. Okay, so I'm going to just hide the original one and just make the one we made today. So it will go over to my prep screen as green and blue. Now, if I didn't attach my letters together, when I send it over, let's look at that. If I don't attach my letters, when I send it over, it comes over into my letters, my blue letters will all line up like this. So then I would either, if I cut it like that, I'd have to go back and figure out how to cut it. So I don't want to do that. I want to hold them in place. I want to freeze them there and hold them together. And to do that, I would attach all of those layers together. And I'm getting a message I see from Danielle. Can you fix the E in life? It seems too far apart. Yes, Danielle, you absolutely can. And the way you do that is you select your letters, and you can change your line spacing up here. I mean, your letter spacing, which would move your letters together. Or you would go to the advanced icon, ungroup your letters, and then manually move that letter over like that. So that's how you do that. Or you can just take the LIFE and move those over towards the E. So you don't change your spacing in between life is. So you can do it like that. But now what you want to do is grab your, then you'd have to go back and put those together. Okay, so then you want to grab all your blue letter layers, and we want to attach those together so that when we send it to our prepare screen, they all go in the same way. If I grouped them together, it would hold it together on my canvas, but not when I send it to my cutter. And I don't want to weld them because I may want to change them around later. But now you'll see when I send it over, the circle comes over with the palm tree, comes over together, and my letters, life is better at the beach, come over together. And I'll be cutting this out of vinyl. So I'll be using a 12 by 12 mat, and I'm ready to cut it out. So I'll send it over, and I will select my different materials. I'll be using premium vinyl glossy today, and I just need to load my fine point blade into my clamp, And
Hey,
I can see,
Kesley,
yeah,
we had a question at the beginning of the class that I thought was so good. Someone asked if you can move around your image on the mat to cut it. Could we do that with one of
absolutely.
these just to
Yes.
show?
Yes, good question. Because I'm using the same type of vinyl, so I can actually send them through the machine on the same mat. But when I move it to, so if I take my Life is Better letters and you click on that shape, so you can even move it just around your mat. But if you wanted to cut it out on the same mat, you would click those three little dots and you would move it to a different mat. Sorry, hold on. It's telling me I should be able to move object to my green mat. So it's not telling me. Let's see what that does. Okay. So it made me create a new mat. I haven't had that happen before. Move object to this mat. So I'll put both of them on one mat. And I don't need these mats anymore since I've moved them both to one mat. And then I just slide my letters over to one side and my circle will be on the other side. And then I'll show you how, when I put that on my mat, how I place my vinyl. So I get it separate. So I cut them separate, but on the same mat. Good question. But I'm still using premium vinyl, premium glossy, and my fine point blade. All right, so I'm going to stop share and we can go to my overhead. Oops. All right, so I'm using this permanent glossy vinyl, and I have one here, so I can even go like for totally different colors if I wanted to. Let's see what I've got. How about if I do a yellow and a red? I know we made it in green and blue. So that's the fun thing. No matter what color you make on your canvas, when you come to your mat, it really doesn't matter what color you use to actually cut it out of. So if I wanted to, I can do my palm tree in the yellow, and I'm just going to cut like a 6" by 6" piece of vinyl. Using my paper trimmer. I do love the Cricut vinyl because on the back side, it has the grid lines. So if you don't have a paper trimmer, you can use these lines here to line up on your mat. Oops. We go like this, 6 inches and 6 inches. All right, so I'll do my words out of the pink here, and I'll do my circle out of, let me go a little closer, out of the yellow. So I have my words on my canvas on the, gotta make sure I have them in the right spot. So my yellow circle is on the left side, and I line that up right here, and my words are on the right side past the 6" mark. So on my mat, I move my words over here and my circle here, and they're on the same mat, even though I'm cutting them out of different colors of vinyl. So you just have to know what colors of vinyl you're using to cut your design out of. I want to make sure that I left myself enough room here to not be too close. Okay. And I'm going to cut this out. So I've got my vinyl on my mat, and I'm going to load it into my machine just like that. And then once it's ready, my little play light will show. And I'm using the Artist Loft journal. I don't know about you guys, I can't get enough of these journals. They're from Michaels, and definitely when they go on a promotion, I stock up on them because they're great little gifts. Perfect for journaling or bullet, if you like to bullet journal or scrapbook, even special occasions. And they're great for gifts. Did I already say that? All right. So now my machine is cutting out. And if you're using a tumbler, you definitely want to remember to use permanent vinyl on your tumblers so that you can hand wash them and everything. And now I'm using the standard grip mat on vinyl. You can use the light grip mat as well. That's the blue mat. And you would just want to, I usually use the blue mat on when I'm working with paper, and then my standard grip when I'm working with vinyl or iron-on, anything like that will go on my green mat. And then there's the pink mat for fabric, and the purple mat is the strong grip mat, like if you're cutting out balsa wood or something like that. I need to have my weeding tool handy. This is my favorite tool here. How about you guys? But I use this all the time. It's a lot of little cuts in this one, isn't it? So I'm using permanent vinyl on my journal. I use, the way I know to use permanent vinyl or removable vinyl, I'll use removable vinyl if I'm doing something that I don't want to be permanent. I know that sounds silly, but like if I'm doing a home decor project or I'm doing a project for a party, I will use removable vinyl because I would like to later be able to maybe take that vinyl off and reuse my design. So I'll use removable. And then if I know I'm going to keep it on there, or if I'm giving it as a gift, I will use permanent vinyl. And this is the glossy vinyl, but I think I do have a glitter addiction to the glitter vinyl. I use that quite a lot. And it's nice to mix and match your vinyls if you want to use like the permanent premium vinyl with the glitter vinyl. I think that just gives such a nice look. And then if your mat gets dusty, you can wipe it off with a baby wipe or in the sink with Dawn detergent, believe it or not. And then you can keep it nice and clean. You want your mat to stay clean because you want it to have the adhesive on it. Now I just use my little weeding tool and I pull out. And guys, I know at home you cut these to every inch of its life so that you can save on your vinyl as much as possible. And I'm with you on that. I usually cut very, very close to the edge here. All right, let's get this guy off here. You can see my palm tree. There we go. So I just walk it off with something like this. You don't have to worry about all your little, there's not too many little pieces on this, so I'm able to easily weed out my design this way. And I just take my weeding tool and I hold down the pieces as I pull up the excess vinyl that I'm weeding out. So weeding can be quite fun to do, like especially if you have one of the big mandala designs or something like that, and you're just sitting at the TV, weeding out your design is always fun. I think it's sort of like peeling skin off of a sunburn, which hopefully we're all using sunscreen. So that doesn't happen too much anymore. Get that guy off. Taking a little bit too deep. Here we go. So you do want to be a little careful. I tend to kind of be a little bit of a bull in a china shop when it comes to my weeding. All right, one more little piece here I can see, and we'll take that off. The Cricut Bright Pad is great too. If you have a hard time weeding and you have a hard time seeing your cut lines, that is a fantastic tool to use to cut out your, to help you weed. My lighting here is a little bit dark. So that's always helpful. Or I'll put it up against a window and I'll weed up against a window so I can really see the cut lines. And Joy has a trick. She uses baby powder on iron-on vinyl to see her
Put on the glitter.
On glitter.
Iron on, where it's a little thicker and it's hard to see through.
I have not tried that yet. So I learned something every day. Okay, so this, just be really careful because these have lots of little pieces to it. So I'm just being a little bit extra careful as I pull it off and weed it out. sometimes if you like to, if weeding is something difficult for you that you're not enjoying, you can draw boxes around the different letters so that you, so it makes it a little bit easier to weed and you're not working with such a big piece of vinyl. I do that if I have a big project I'm weeding. Okay, life is better at the beach. Oh, I hope I get to go. I hope everyone's had a chance to go relax this summer before school gets crazy, or if you're already in school, looking forward to next summer. These make cute little, these journals are great little house gifts too. If you go visit somebody, to give them a little house gift, or you can definitely, my A here, there's my A. Like I'm pulling that up. If you have like a family reunion and you want to give everybody a little book to keep track of all the memories they make during the family reunion, these are great little books for that. So now I just go back in and we're going to take out our little pieces. Again, I would do this, these little teeny pieces I would use up against a window or my bright pad and get that cleaned off there. All right, now what we're going to do is put this onto the journal and we're going to layer. So you can layer one of two ways. One way is to layer it together first, and then, so I could pick up my words and then I could put it onto the circle here and then pick all of that up together. So that's one way to do it, or you can do each layer, put it down one at a time. So I'll probably layer it together first before putting it down, just to make it a little bit easier when I put it down. But that's usually what I do. Now, if I'm using two different, I talked about the glitter vinyl. If you're using glitter vinyl, you do want to remember to use a stronger grip adhesive than your regular transfer tape to get your little pieces up when you're doing the glitter vinyl. That vinyl has a texture to it, so you want to remember to use the stronger grip when you're doing textured vinyl, but your glossy vinyl is just regular old vinyl, so you don't have to worry about using a strong grip on that. You just want the regular grip on that. So if you ever find that you are having a hard time getting your vinyl off of your transfer tape, check your transfer tape first, because there's probably a good chance that you're using the wrong transfer tape. At least that's what happens to me. I'm only speaking from experience there. And this little B in there, there we go. So I also usually have a lint roller next to me so that I can remove my vinyl using a lint roll. Like I have a little lint roller to put my pieces on so that I don't have little pieces sticking around. So that's just another little tip. Okay, so we're going to put the Life is Better onto the circle and then move both pieces onto the notebook. So to do that, I'm just going to trim out a piece of, say, 5x5 transfer tape. And again, I'm just using the regular transfer tape, not the strong grip transfer tape, because I don't have textured vinyl. And I'm going to use that to transfer this over. So now we're going to do the hinge method of your transfer tape. So normally I would do the hinge method, but let me think. So I'll line up my sticker, kind of get a good feel for where it's going to go about. So I know that I want to put my transfer tape into the square of this line here. That makes sense. So what I want to do first really is pick up this piece and then transfer that onto there. So we're going to do that. So I put Life is Better in the center of my cutting mat. Now I do use a self-healing cutting mat to work on. Not only do I like this surface because it protects my desk, but I also like this surface because of the grid lines. And it's super helpful to have it to line up my projects especially if I'm lining two pieces of vinyl together. Let me get my little corner here. If one corner doesn't work, I'll go to the next corner and work my way around my paper that way. Let's see. Here we go. Nope. Ah, it's coming. I know. There we go. There we go. Just a little bit there. Okay. So I'm not going to worry so much about getting my vinyl set up perfectly for this. I just kind of need to leave enough space on the edge. So I'm going to sort of center my words onto my vinyl and use my grid lines here to do that, and the lines on my mat to do that. So I'm just going to lay it down on top of that. And I've got my grid lines are lined up here on my mat, which is super helpful. And then you take your wedge. So it's so funny. My mom's visiting. Oh, there it is. And she was saying she didn't have a big wedge like this. And I keep telling her not to steal it. It may go home with her though. Okay. So then you just take this off your table. And if you don't want to have it stick down, you can always keep a little piece detached. And I turn my transfer tape over and take the back of my vinyl and I kind of rock it off to get all those little pieces to come off super nicely like this. And if they don't, I kind of will crease my paper and get the edge of a letter and kind of gently bring it back down so it knows I want it to stick onto the transfer tape and get off of the vinyl backing. So you just kind of dance it around here and work your way, work your little magic. So if one piece is sticking up, you just kind of push it back down there. Oops. Gotta always watch those little eyes, the dots on your eyes. Okay, so now I have my wording and my sticker, and I just want to put that down so that I have it even. So as long as I know that I have this line straight and this line straight, and I keep this straight and this straight, it will go onto my design straight. So I think I'm going to push it up just a hair like that. There we go. And it's okay if it overlaps. Like if you overlap a little bit of your palm tree there, totally okay there. Don't worry about that. And now all we need to do is pull off hopefully just the yellow design off the transfer tape. And there's my palm tree. Whoops. There we go. All right, so now I have my decal. Now, if you didn't have something to put it on, you could just keep it on the transfer tape for your vinyl and put it on something later. You can give it as a gift or something like that if you wanted to. If you had a journal or your tumbler or your iPad, a beach pail, you can just put it on there. And then since this is on a straight line here, I'll just line that up on the edge of my journal and I'll put that down. And I'm leaving space here because this journal does have the elastic band here. So I want to leave myself some space there. And you just roll off now your transfer tape and then save your transfer tape because you can reuse your transfer tape multiple times before you want to change it out or anything like that. So there we go. There's two different ways to apply it. This one was centered and this one is a little bit off center, and you can add a paper clip or other things onto it, add more stickers, more words, anything like that that your heart desires. So
I love the two different colors. I never would have imagined the palm trees in yellow. You're so creative.
Isn't that cute?
Yeah, it's adorable.
Yeah, sometimes you have to like think outside of your color box and you come up with a fun creation that you maybe wouldn't have put together.
Kaz, as always, you have offered an amazing class. We really appreciate all that you're teaching, and you have so much good knowledge. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, people are agreeing with those cute little colors.
Awesome. Yeah, it's I really like the journals, a flat surface as you're starting out, because it's really easy to make sure your image goes down smoothly, and you have like options to position them around. So I think if you're a beginner, the journals are just a great place to start. You can never have too many journals.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much, Kez. We really appreciate your time. And thank you everyone for hanging out with us.
Don't forget, we have another really super fun class in September, our projects-based class, which is going to be frightfully spooky. I think it's called it. So I think we may have a link to that. Have you shared a link?
I think Lindsay is pulling it right now.
Awesome. That's going to be very fun class. So I hope everybody can take that class. And if any of this was a little bit confusing for you, please take the 101 class with us again. It goes over the basics of Design Space. And then we have this class. If you ever want to take it again, we'll have I think, can I say? We'll have
go ahead.
We'll have a new design next time we offer this class.
Yes.
Yeah,
I think we will.
So we'll have a new
season.
Yeah, a whole new season. So new season and everything. So I hope you guys are enjoying it. I hope you're crafting. Stay safe.
Thank you so much, Kesley. See you next time.
Bye, guys.